Hey guys, thanks for keeping up to speed with my videos here about eating ruddy fallow bucks. This video is looking at the gear I have with me in the field to help me be successful in killing fallow bucks, as well as help me take the meat out of the field cleanly and quickly. So yeah, if you're a bit of a gearhead, hopefully you'll enjoy this one. If you haven't seen the first few videos in this series, there'll be some links above or below me here in the description that you can click on to go back and watch, looking at things like what the fallow rut is, how the behavior and the condition of the bucks changes over the rut, and there's also a good demonstration of me shooting a buck and then cutting him up on the ground and getting his meat out of the field and back to my vehicle. With that being said, let's have a look at some of this gear I use. Righto guys, we'll start with these things here on the table. And these things here are unique to all the other gear I'm going to show you because I only ever carry this gear during the fallow rut. If it's not the rut, it's not in my bag. The first piece is what's called the bighorn deer caller. It's designed and manufactured in Australia by a couple of good blokes, Toby and Mitch. This has been made to help you replicate either the sound of a red deer stag roar or a fallow buck croak, depending on how you want to use it. I've had a lot of success with this over the last 2 years, I believe, just getting bucks' attention and maybe using it to make some doe calls if I'm a really long way away from a deer, just to see what his reaction might be. But yeah, that's a cool thing to carry. This gadget here is called a pack rack. I believe it's made by Knight and Hale. I bought this off an eBay store in Australia maybe 7 or 8 years ago, at least 7 years ago. And it's designed to just make it sound like there are some bucks having a fight. Essentially just works like rattling antlers. Some people don't like the plastic stuff or the fake stuff. I actually have had lots of success with that. I've rattled in dozens of bucks with it over the years. It's done a really good job. But like I said, I don't think you can get them anymore. I've moved to using real antlers over the last couple of years to rattle in bucks. I think it's just, I don't know, I just like to have them in my hands. I like to think that I might be using some antlers from a buck that I shot a year or two previously while hunting the same property to get some more deer to come in. That kind of makes me feel cool. These antlers here, you see they're really funky. They're off that buck that I was butchering up in the previous video to this one. So that's a good way to use some wonky looking antlers. If you shoot a buck and you're not worried about mounting his head or something in your house, you could cut his antlers off and use it to make some rattlers. We'll talk a little bit about some of these knives now, guys. I've got way more knives than this, and I may end up doing a knife video specifically down the track at some point because I can't cover it all right now. But yeah, some of these knives retail for close to or a bit more than 500 Australian dollars. Some of them retail for less than 50 Australian dollars. I've used all of them fairly extensively except for these two just here, and they've all done a fantastic job. So I just want to emphasize that point, guys. It doesn't have to be a super expensive knife to do a good job. As long as it's sharp and you know what you're doing, you'll be fine. This one here is made by Victory in New Zealand. It's called a rabbiter's knife or a rabbiting knife. Yeah, very affordable knife. It's been used in plenty of wild game situations, and it's been used here at home slaughtering domestic sheep. We use it in our kitchen a fair bit actually. It's just a really good knife, very well priced, and cops a hell of a lot of abuse. This one here is made by Mora. I forget the exact model. It might be a classic or a classic 1 or something. Carbon steel, so it's got a nice patina on it, and a Scandi grind, so it's very easy to sharpen if you're new to sharpening knives. I can't remember what these are worth nowadays. It might be a bit more than $50. I'm not sure, but it's just, yeah, it's copped a hell of a lot of abuse as well. This is probably my second or third one I've owned because I've lost a couple of them. But yeah, a great knife, very good, affordable option. These ones here are made by my friend Jason at Seeker Knives. They're very high end. The skeletonized ones are a little bit more affordable than these ones here, but they all do a fantastic job. I mentioned I hadn't used this one specifically very much because I actually have two of them. This model's called a feather blade. when you buy them from Jason, it comes with the paracord handle and the sheath, and I've taken the paracord handles off these two just because they end up getting so dirty. I was quite happy to get rid of them, and I didn't really feel the need to have them on my hand. I find them fairly comfortable anyway. Your mileage may vary. You can actually see maybe on the video that the blade here has just been worn away from so much use and sharpening over the years I've owned it. This one here is what the blade profile is like when they're brand new. And that's just what happens when you use a knife a lot, guys. You use it a lot, you sharpen it a lot, and they end up just wearing down. It's a very tough steel, but geez, I've put that through hundreds of animals. It's just been fantastic. And it's a great size for fallow deer as well. You really don't need a big knife for fallow at all. This is a slightly newer model from Jason. It's called a Featherblade XL, so it basically does what these feather blades do, but it's a little bit bigger. It's obviously a little bigger than the regular feather blade, but it doesn't make it too big for fallow deer at all. It's probably about perfect as well. I've done quite a few fallow and goats with this knife already. Great knife. This one here is made by Jason as well. I believe it's a model called a Bushmaster. It's probably more of a bushcraft knife than a proper hunting knife. It's got a very thick spine. It's really, really heavy duty, and with that scanty grind, it's designed to do bushcrafty kind of things, you know, like carving wood and whatever, but it's got enough belly and it gets insanely sharp. So I've skinned out stacks of animals with this. In fact, I believe the fallow buck in the video previous to this one, I was using these two knives here anyway. And yeah, obviously a very fancy high-end knife, but geez, I just love carrying this thing. It's unreal. This one is the last seeker I'll show you in this video, last seeker knife. It's called a Fast Stalker. It looks fairly heavy duty, but it's unbelievably lightweight compared to something like this. And yeah, it still looks to be in superb condition. I've put this through hundreds of animals. It's the same steel as in these feather blades, S35VN, and just a phenomenal handle shape. I've put this through sambar, fallow, goats, pigs. I've maybe even used it on a couple of domestic sheep as well, but it's one of the most comfortable, versatile hunting knives I have ever used. It's probably my all-time favorite knife. The last knife I'll touch on is this one here, made by my friend Kevin at Smokin' Gauchos. The brand started out as like a kind of barbecue wood fire tool brand, but they're branching out now with some field knives. I just wanted to showcase this one, even though I haven't had it that long, because it's much more of a classic old school skinning knife shape. Like when people think about a skinning knife, they think about something that looks more like this as opposed to some of the ones that look like this here. So that large belly design is great for skinning. This has been through a handful of goats and a couple of fallow does, so I'm yet to take it out during the rut, but I'm looking forward to doing that maybe next year. And I just wanted to emphasize the point, like you can use a knife about this size if you want to, which is fairly large, and you can do a good job, or you can use a small knife like this one and you can do just as good a job as well. It's all about your knowledge, your abilities, your confidence, and your personal preference. And finally, guys, I just want to talk about carrying a Leatherman or a multi-tool of some kind. I have this in my bino harness all the time. And I use it for different things all the time. The reason why I'm talking about it in this video is because when you're trying to get around the base of the coronets, if you're skinning out or caping out a fallow deer's face, the plier section here can be really useful to get in and pull that skin away. Or what a lot of people like to do is use the flathead screwdriver attachment. And you can sort of get in and pry that skin away from the coronet. It seems like a bit of effort to carry a tool this big for that one specific thing, but like I said, I've always got it in my bino harness anyway because I'm always using it for different things when I'm around camp or out in the bush, and you may find that useful as well. Just here I've got some of my knife care stuff and game bags. I guess the trendy way to refer to this nowadays is a kill kit. This here is just a Kifaru ultralight pullout. I've got a few of these in different sizes, and whether it's a rut hunt or a big backpack hunt or whatever, I'll stuff one of these full of everything I need to take care of game meat in the field. These two things here are just some little sharpening devices that don't really take up that much room. This one's made by easy lap. And it's a diamond rod, so it is abrasive and it will actually sharpen, but you sort of screw that in there. You can touch a knife up on there if you need to. This is the second one I've owned. I lost the first one. After a little bit of use, they get a little bit smoother and do a much better job. When you sort of first get them, they seem a little bit too rough. This one here is a DC4 made by Falkneven. DC stands for diamond and ceramic, and 4, I guess maybe it's 4 inches long. Again, doesn't take up much room in my kill kit. And I've used that to touch up knives in the field a lot. I've had that for, I don't know, it could be close to 10 years. This here, believe it or not, I've carried this on backpack missions for sambar before. I have this in my pack all the time if I feel like I'm going to be using my knives a lot. It's a smooth butcher steel. And yeah, I'm just constantly touching up my knife on this steel when I'm skinning or quartering or whatever the case may be, to make sure I don't lose that edge. So these ones here, they're abrasive. They'll put a new edge on a knife. This one just maintains it. It seems like a bit of bulk or weight or a bit of a nuisance to carry to a lot of people, but in my experience, it's a lot more of a nuisance to have a knife go dull and not be able to get that edge back, because working with a blunt knife is not just frustrating, it's also potentially dangerous. And yeah, this one just happened to be used by my grandmother when she worked in an abattoir, so I like carrying that one around. Here I've got 3 different kinds of synthetic game bags. This one here is an argali, this is a caribou, and this is a kafaru. I believe I've got 3 of these. This caribou came in what's called the muley set, so I think it's like 4 big ones and 1 small one, and I've got 3 of the smaller kafaru ones, and I've used them all at various times. I know lots of people have good luck with pillowcases. I don't like to use pillowcases, but if that's what you like to do, you go right ahead, knock your socks off, that's fine by me. I just find these synthetic ones are maybe a little bit more durable, and they're a little bit more hygienic in that they seem to clean easier. This set here, the caribou set, I've had them since May 2018, so I'm talking about maybe close to 7 years. They've had hundreds and hundreds of animals put in them, and yeah, I mean, they're a little bit tired, but they're still doing the job just fine. Spiker also makes some blaze orange synthetic ones, which are really good. I've got some friends who use those ones. These synthetic bags here are very expensive. There is no getting around it. So you got to weigh up your options and your priorities. Me and my wife and friends and family, we obviously hunt a lot. So investing in these things has been a really, really good thing for us to do. I didn't think that these would last anywhere near as long as what they have, but they've been really good. So I highly recommend any of these synthetic game bags. The last thing we'll cover in this field gear video is a good backpack. I like to drive a vehicle to a deer and recover it, or any game animal for that matter, and recover it if possible, but often it's not possible, or by the time you walked back to the vehicle and drove back down to where your game animal was, you may as well have just carried the damn thing out anyways, because it would have taken the same amount of time. So I have, maybe the last 6 or 7 years, been using packs with very, very strong external frames that allow me to take the bag off the frame and put the meat in between the two and compress it all back together, so you can get that load really well distributed on your hips as opposed to being dragging off your shoulders, because that can, you know, get painful very quickly. This one here, I've owned this one since May 2018. Well, the frame anyway, it's an EXO K2 frame. It's got titanium in it, so it's exceptionally strong. The bag is not my original bag. This is actually an EXO 2000 cubic inch bag. I had the 5500 cubic inch option, but I bought this bag off a friend of mine when I retired this frame to give it to my wife. I've probably packed out close to 100 animals with this frame. I walked the Kokoda track with this frame. Some of those loads were enormous. I've actually had 2 sambar hind rear legs in this bag, as well as my entire winter sambar backpack camp. I was sore for a week afterwards, but I got it done. It was probably maybe a 2 or 3K walk through the mountains back to my car. But yeah, look, a really, really good pack. I've been so pleased with how it's handled. And for what was less than 1,200 Australian dollars back then, it's actually served me very, very well. I know that it seems like it's a hell of a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but yeah, I mean, it's done a really good job for me so far. I retired this one and bought a Kafaru Reckoning on their duplex light frame a couple of years ago because I wanted something that was a little bit more expandable with the space and something a bit more modular I could maybe put other things on top of, because I found I was running out of space on my big trips because I take so much camera gear with me and so much food with me. It hasn't got quite as many miles on it as the Exo does, but I've carried out lots of heavy loads with this one so far. You would have seen that on some of the videos you've watched of mine previously, same as this one obviously. The Reckoning, I believe, is discontinued now. It's been criticised by people because it's got way too many straps on it. It can get a bit untidy, but I don't mind that because it just means there are lots of points where I can take up tension when I'm carrying out a really heavy load and just keep it from moving around so you feel like you can walk securely. If you were to buy either of these packs these days in the configurations that I've got them, because I've got a few extra pockets and pouches for this one here, you're not going to get much change at all out of about 1,500 Australian dollars. I know it is a lot of money, but I've abused the heck out of them and they haven't missed a beat at all. And you don't have to spend that much money. I know Mystery Ranch have some good options, and the Spiker packs have a similar load hauling capability. They're much more affordable, and I know lots of people who use them with great success. They're very happy with them. But this is just what I've decided to buy for my purposes. I hope that was interesting and informative, guys. I want to make the point again that this is very specific to gear I have with me to help be successful in the rut and what I use to get the meat out of the field during the rut. There's a lot more detail I could go into about knives and backpacks and other things like boots, binoculars, camera gear, whatever. And I might make some more videos like that in the future if people will find that interesting and useful. The next video is looking at gear again, but it's going to be gear at home. So things to help process the venison, freeze the venison, and then bits of equipment you might have in your kitchen to help you get the most out of it when you're going to cook the venison. If you're keen to see that next video about the gear I use at home, either hit the subscribe button, or if that's not something you do and you don't care to do that, that's fine. Just keep an eye on the social media pages and you'll see that one get dropped here shortly. And yeah, hopefully you'll find that one useful as well. Cheers.